Hello and welcome everybody. This is Shaker Presents. I'm Jonathan. I am a librarian here at Shaker Heights Public Library, and we are doing our best to provide you with some interesting ideas and things to do while you are stuck at home. Today I'm going to talk about, if I can get this thing to work correctly, I'm going to talk about pamphlet binding, which is a interesting little technique to sew your own books. Kind of gives you a feel of having accomplished a little something creative, and also if you have kids or friends that are interested in writing or books or anything, drawing, little things to give them as gifts. So let's begin. Here are some of the things that you will need. A couple of sheets of paper, I'd say anywhere between 2 and 5, just standard size. Normal paper will work, or if you have more special paper, that's fine too. You'll also need an awl, which is that long pointy instrument you see there at the top left of the picture, followed by cotton or linen binder's thread. This could also be some other thick or heavy thread that you might have around the house, perhaps some yarn even if you have a larger needle that you can use. But you can find all this stuff at a craft store. The rest of it, we have needle, scissors. You want larger tapestry needles for this, or there are binding needles if you want to go all out and get those for yourselves. That's basically all you need to do this simple little craft. First thing you will do is fold your paper. You want to get it as accurate as possible. Fold it in half so that the corners are all touching properly. Next, what you'll do is open it up, and from the inside use the awl to very carefully punch a hole in the middle of the signature, which is what this folded piece of paper is called. And you're going to want, for a single signature, you're going to want, say, 3 to 5 holes. If you were binding more than one signature together, you would need an even number of holes. But for this, in this case, we're using an odd number. So 3 to 5 works just perfectly for the kind of thing we're doing here. You want to space them out fairly evenly across the spine of that signature. Next, you're going to measure out at least, I'd say, at least 2 spine lengths of thread. You just take the back of the signature and pull out the thread twice to get the right amount of thread that you need. And you thread it. You don't need to thread it all the way to double, just so you have a little tail, as you can see in the second part of the right-hand picture there. And then you just begin to sew. You start in the outside of the signature, and you take the needle through the middle hole. You continue either direction, doesn't matter which really, and go to the next hole. You'll go back outside the book, and then on the very end of it, or if you're only doing 3 holes, then you're going to reverse yourself immediately and skip over the middle hole when you come to it the second time. If that doesn't make sense, I will have a video at the end of this, and it will show it a little more clearly what's going on. So stick around for that. Basically, you just go back and forth skipping the middle hole the first time you encounter it. And when you bring back the needle for the last, when you're almost out of thread, you'll be ready to go through the middle hole again, but from the inside out. And you're going to want to go on the opposite side of the thread that is crossing over that hole from the way you entered it. It's much more clear when you watch the video, so bear with me here. Once you do that, you tie the threads together and make a nice little seal of your sewing, and you'll clip the end and have this nice little tail that you see right there, right in the middle of your book. So there you have it. Honestly, that's all there is to it. It's very straightforward. You can use this for all kinds of things, like a quarantine experience journal, for example. Or if you're into it, a spell book. I happen to be into Dungeons and Dragons, and that would be a very cool spell book that we could use for our magic users. You can use it for calligraphy practice. You can give it to your kids as a phone book, which I know is completely useless these days, but still, this is kind of how I started. This is what got me interested in the first place. Is once upon a time when I was very young, my dad made these things for us, for me and my sister, and we made phone books out of it to call our little friends. So this is something that you can pass along and maybe become a generational craft for your kids. Here's a different with 5 holes I used for this one. Just a step-by-step sort of show what each thing we did in one place. You'll see down there toward the bottom right what I meant by coming back out the hole in the center on the opposite side of the string. And even though I did this, I put a cover on it in this one because I wanted to give it a little more visibility. With the plain white, it's more difficult to see. Anyway, let's move on to what we have available for you in the library. There are all kinds of interesting things that we can provide for you. Once things get started again, you can of course get some physical books, but meanwhile we have access to Hoopla, we have access to Cleveland's Overdrive, where you can get digital books, ebooks, audiobooks if you want. It won't be very helpful with bookbinding, but you know, it might be interesting to listen to. We also have some interesting research and databases available that will help you with, you know, creativity, not only this kind, but others. All this can be found at our one website here, shakerlibrary.org. If you did enjoy this presentation, look at the last link there. That is for our evaluation, so give us a shout out. Tell us how we did with this. I'm going to go on to the video now and open up the conversation to anything, questions, whatever you might have. So let's get to that. All right. Here's another run through. I'll just play it and feel free to chat and talk. Ask questions if you want. Maybe I'll tell a story. To this video, I've added a bone folder, which is something I'll show you in a moment here. There's my needle and my packet of needles. I was going to do some calligraphy penmanship. You'll see a little bit at the end there. My nice thread, a little thicker than normal thread you see. my awl. Be careful with it. There's the bone folder. It used to be made of bone, now they're made of plastic, but they're there to help you make a very nice, straight and strong crease in folding. So here's the paper I'm going to be using.
Could you use a ruler as well?
Oh, certainly.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever helps you fold stuff. It just makes a nice even. I mean, I use my fingernail if I have to. It's not terribly important. I just kind of like to break it out once in a while. All right, now we're going to punch some holes. Okay, take your awl very carefully. Find the middle. Sometimes it takes a little effort to punch through. That's why I recommended, only maybe up to 5 pages. Try to get it right even there. Measure out to about where you want to go for the last hole there. And then in between those two, you're going to want another one for the 5-hole punch. You'll see binders, if they have multiple signatures, they'll just stack them all together and then use a saw on the spine and just saw a little bit in so that it cuts all through all the pages. Much easier for mass production or larger works. This is very good for just simple single signature binding.
You're talking about like a pointed nose saw that has if you had to use a saw, if you had thicker paper or more pages. What kind of a saw were you talking about?
Usually just a very square looking thing, small handheld, fine tooth.
Okay.
Almost like the one you might use for, say, cutting crown molding or something in a construction in a house.
Okay.
Even with the big tapestry needle, it's kind of hard to get that thread through. If you care, I mean, it doesn't really matter if you go from the inside or through the outside like this. In fact, it might be easier for some people to hold it on the inside. You'll just remember that you'll end up with that little tie on that inside rather than the outside. So it might interfere with something that you're doing.
And you have to be careful that you don't pull it all the way through because there's no knot at the end, right?
Right, that's true too, yeah. You want to get it fairly taut, but not so taut that you pull the thread out of the needle either.
Gotcha.
Just going back and forth, back and forth. When I get to this point, though, I'm going to skip over that and go to the next hole. See there, I almost pulled out that thread.
Yeah.
Kind of running out of thread too. So maybe 2.5 times the spine length would be good. All right, one more, and you'll see now.
You just need enough to be able to tie.
Yep, pretty much. If you like that little tail on it, some people do. I usually clip it down to about 1/2 inch.
Gotcha. And do you tie the two ends together a couple of times, 3 times, 2 times?
Just twice, just to make sure it's a knot that won't come undone easily.
Okay.
So now you have your fully handmade booklet. Do what you want with it at this point. So one of the things that we thought we would do for our community is to use some of these videos that we're making into some kind of larger project for the rest of people to participate in. And I thought what we could do maybe is to make our own pamphlets that we could then either share our favorite recipes from this time in our lives. I'm sure we've all learned a few. If you were here last week, you watched me make some spinach pie for you, and next week I'll tell you about my travels abroad, some of them. One of these weeks I might even give you a little thing on calligraphy. So that's the video. That was what we did there. As I was saying, just keep tuned to this channel so that we can present you with some more information on a collective, communal sort of craft activity using pamphlet binding, recipe making, whatever else we can think of. Call it your COVID-19 survival guide for yourself. We'll see what Shaker Heights can put together on that front. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I look forward to seeing you all when you're back, when you're able to come back into the building.